podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The 1865 Match Report.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 Match Report. It's Advantage Forest going into the second leg of the playoffs after they won 2-1 at Bramall Lane in the first leg of the Championship playoff semi-final. It could have been more. It could have been comfortable and out of sight. But as it stands, Forest take a 1-goal lead into Tuesday night's game at the City Ground. Goals from Jack Colback and Brennan Johnson had Forest 2-0 ahead. But Sheffield United replied late on with a corner that came into the box. And it looked like it was Jack Robinson initially, but Sander Berge has been given the goal. And that goal makes it 2-1 going into Tuesday night's second leg. But that doesn't begin to tell the whole story of this game. It had chances, it had drama, it was exciting, a brilliant playoff encounter. And we're going to run through it now with Tom Newton, who was there at Bramall Lane. Tom, that was some afternoon's football, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just a brilliant day out, and with the Forest fans, 3,000 of us or so. It was just a brilliant atmosphere, and we've got the scoreline going into Tuesday night's game at City Ground.
We'll come to the team news to begin with. So 7 changes made to last week's side, which drew at Hull City. Not to be unexpected there. I think that's not really much of a surprise. That saw Steve Cook and Scott McKenna recalled, Toby Figueiredo dropping to the bench and Jonathan Panzo dropping out of the 18. But we had Jed Spence, Ryan Yates, Jack Colback all restored to the starting 11. Brennan Johnson, Sam Surridge up front, and Myton and Zande Silva dropping out of the team. But the big boost for Forest was Keenan Davis returning to the subs bench for the first time since he picked up the injury at Luton a month ago. Tom, when in the ground, what was your reaction to that Forest team news? Were you expecting those changes and Forest reverting back to the team that had done so well in the final few games of the season?
Yeah, I did, because we knew that some were rested last week. Jack Colback, for example, was picking up knocks, etc. So he didn't want to be risked last week in a bit of game where it didn't really mean a great deal apart from positional. But I kind of knew on the Friday night that Keenan Davis was in the squad. There was a lot of rumours going around on social media, and I did get a text message from a decent source saying, no, he's been training all week and he's in the squad. So with Keenan Davis in the side, it just gives you that boost. I mean, we probably didn't know how fit he was, but he's late to come onto the pitch, and Steve Cooper says I wouldn't risk him if he wasn't ready. So basically, he is ready. So it was nice for him to get some minutes on the pitch prior to Tuesday's game in the second leg.
Just having him there is a massive boost, isn't it? To see him back and to give Forest another option in the playoffs. We know how tricky and how difficult these matches can be. So having Davis available again, just is a massive option to have coming back into the squad. Yeah.
And it's just like you say, it just gives you that different option, and he can hold the ball up. He's got pace, he's got power. He can score goals, which he's shown since he joined us in January. And also with his hold-up play, he can bring Zinkernagel into the game, Johnson in the game, etc. So, it's a massive boost, and he's been a brilliant player for us since he joined us from Villa in January.
So on to the opening exchanges. Sheffield United unchanged from their 4-0 win over Fulham last Saturday. So that saw 2 former Reds players, Ben Osborne and Jack Robinson, in the side. The early pressure came from Sheffield United. They had a corner, which I think it was John Egan, just hooked wide of Samba's post. But Forest, once they started attacking, looked the most dangerous side, didn't they? And it was very evident early on that Forest were going to get joy turning Sheffield United around and getting in behind them.
Yeah, and you look at their back four, and it's a bit of, no disrespect to him, but it's a bit of an ageing back line. And, if you got Johnson in the spaces and Surridge in the spaces, then obviously the trickery is Zinchenko was going to get a bit of joy from that. And I always says that going to Sheffield United, you need to get that early goal just to quieten them down. And Forest ultimately got that with, it was great play by Wall to start with to send Sam Surridge away. And then he's obviously put the ball into the area. Zinchenko's had his shot blocked with Ben Osborne, thankfully, slipping over. Then obviously Jack Colback rifles it into the roof of the net. But it's what Forest deserved. I thought they settled into the game pretty well. And it was what was needed in what was going to be a bit of a cagey, tense atmosphere at Bramall Lane.
It was a perfect start, wasn't it, to a playoff game from Forest's point of view. The first goal, like you say, just to quieten down the home crowd and give Forest a foothold. And there were so many good aspects of that goal. First of all, Joe Worrell's lofted, dinked ball that had a little bit of bend on it to keep it and bend it into Sam Surridge's path. He puts the ball across dangerously first time. Agent Osborne slipping over for us in the box. And even though Zinchenko perhaps should have scored his effort, it's Jack Colback there to tap it in and give Forest the lead. It was good to see you had Zinchenko and Colback both in the box, and the reward came from it. And with it, the opening goal.
Yeah, and I don't want to put negative on things, but in previous seasons, let's say, for example, when Graben's gone down to the byline, nobody's got into the area to tap it in. So it's like crossed it into absolutely no one, but it was refreshing and rewarding to see one Zinchenko there who obviously didn't score, and then Jack Colback there to back him up. So it was great that they got into those positions and gave us that 1-0 win, which I think was deserved.
Sheffield United did respond 5 minutes later. They had a corner which was bent into the box. John Egan got up, but his header was cleared off the line by Sam Surridge, who positioned himself well to react. So Forest could have been pegged back quite soon after the opening goal, but they weren't. And from there on in, it was all Forest. Was it just chance after chance? And Forest were playing so well.
Yeah, and every time they were getting in behind Sheffield United, and Johnson got in a few times, etc. So if we did go in at half-time 3-0 up, nobody could have said we didn't deserve it, because we was in, the domination from Forest midfield again, and then obviously the wide areas. We totally dominated Sheffield United yesterday, and I've got a family who are Sheffield United fans, and they basically says how we're still in it, I will never know, because we're very fortunate to only be technically 1 goal down with the second leg to come.
I joked in the WhatsApp group yesterday that this report could be an hour long if we went into all of the chances that Forest had and couldn't quite convert. But let's have a look at some of those chances with so many near misses as well on these. So yeah, there were a couple. Jed Spencer's shot was saved. That came to Sam Surridge, and he went to place it into the bottom corner, but it was a good low stop by Wes Foderingham. And then after that came 3 massive chances for Forest that could have put the tie out of sight. We had the Brennan Johnson effort that was parried over by Foderingham to begin with, which gave Forest a corner. And then that corner was cleared. From that clearance, James Garner picks the ball up on the left-hand side, puts in a fantastic cross. Ryan Yates in front of goal, heads it just wide. Tom, that was agonising, that one.
Yeah, and I mean, he scored at the other end a few weeks ago, Ryan Yates did. So it was like, if you look at the reaction of Foderingham, he's like basically said, I'm not getting near that. And thankfully for him, it went wide, and sadly for us, it didn't go in. So, but no, if that's on target, it's at that point in the game would have been 2-0. And like I said, Forest completely and utterly would have deserved that.
And then Johnson had a shot which flew narrowly wide of the far post after him and Zinchenko had nice interplay on the halfway line, and Zinkernagel's ball released Johnson. It was very similar, actually, to a chance I remember Marlon Harewood having in the second leg at Bramall Lane in 2003, where he's through on the edge of the box and he drills it for the far corner and it just goes wide of that far post. And again, on another day, that goes in and Forest are flying.
Yeah, it must be that end for us, because that was the end what Marlon Harewood did have that chance. So, but no, I don't want to say it, but it is fine margin. But on another day, it's like we could have, like the Swansea game, near enough all our chances went in, and yesterday it wasn't to be. So it's just one of those. But no, like I says, we completely bossed that first half and should have been 3-0 up or whatever, but wasn't to be. So it's just one of those, unfortunately. Some go in, some don't.
The final big chance was Johnson, who had a header saved by Foderingham after Sam Surridge's shot had been parried away. It was actually a good save from the keeper. I don't think Johnson could have done much more. He headed it. It was going in that corner of the net, but Foderingham got across well and parried it away. But at half-time, Forest led 1-0. They deserved to be in front. It was just a shame that it couldn't have been more, because they could easily have been 4 or 5 up at the break.
Yeah, and if you look at the Sheffield United players, they just could not handle Spence down the right, Johnson, Zinkernagel, Colback getting into decent positions. They just could not handle us. And it just sets it up perfectly, doesn't it, for Tuesday night? Because, and no disrespect to them, but they've got, like I said, they've got an ageing back line, and they've been on the run yesterday constantly. And they usually say, get defenders running towards their own goal, and we did that time and time again. And you've got like Basham in there, Egan in there, and it's going to be some recovery for them to be ready and be fresh for Tuesday. And we're at home. We've got obviously 28,000 behind us, and let's go again and do what we did yesterday, and hopefully we can get a couple of goals, and we could get to a point in the game, touch wood, where we can kind of like cruising, and we can think of hopefully going to Wembley.
When you complete a crossword puzzle, you might get a swell of pride. If you play the Virginia Lottery's $300,000 Crossword Inferno Scratcher, you could win up to $300,000. This $10 scratcher has 3 puzzles on each ticket, so it's loaded with crossword fun. Visit a lottery retailer near you. For odds and more information, visit VALottery.com.
On to the second half then. And after Forest had ran Sheffield United ragged in the first, the second half started a little bit differently, didn't it? Sheffield United came at Forest and tried to take the game back to the Reds. There was a little bit of concern, but at the same time, Tom, you're going to have to expect these kind of periods in playoff games, aren't you? Teams are going to have these spells where they're on top.
Yeah, and you knew they were going to come out with something more to give, because they were second best in that first half, and Heckingbottom would have obviously given them a bit of like a roasting and telling them to play better. So it was expected, but when you've got Worrell in there, Cook in there, McKenna in there, and then obviously a decent keeper in Samba, you was very confident that they could, whatever Sheffield United chucked at us yesterday, we could deal with. And we did deal with it, but then I think our midfield for like a period of the game in the second half went missing. Every time like one of the back 5 cleared the ball, we wasn't picking up that second ball, and ultimately Sheffield United were pushing us further and further back. And then you got Sander Berge, Oliver Norwood, and then you got Gibbs White, etc. And they were like really pushing us back, and it was a bit frustrating that we just couldn't get a foothold in the game in that second half. It kept coming back, and it's like somebody just needed to like buy a free kick or just get the foot on the ball. And thankfully, I think they had a shot, which I think Worrell was going around saying like, just calm down with the ball and everything. And once that passage of play went and we got the ball back, Forest were went back to being more dominant, and that was much needed because they were like trying to turn the screw on as for a period in that second half.
Yeah, Forest did have to hold out in those opening 15, 20 minutes of the second half. Steve Cook blocked an effort from Chris Basham. I think it was then Sander Berge who was played through in the box, but his shots went high and over the bar. And then Gibbs White tested Samba with an effort from range, which the Forest keeper collected quite comfortably in the end. But it was a pulsating second half. The pace and the freneticness of the match at that point was a proper playoff game, wasn't it? You could just, certainly watching it on TV, it felt that way. Did you get the same atmosphere in the stadium?
I did, but you tend to screech your own team. I mean, the playoffs for a neutral are absolutely brilliant for entertainment value, jeopardy. Anything could happen in a split second, but you just don't want it to happen to your side. And it was a bit end to end, but I think it's just this season of what Steve Cooper's done is Forest haven't got to like a soft underbelly anymore. They're quite resolute. Defensively, we're pretty sound, and with the pace up front of like Surridge, Zinkernagel and Johnson, you know you're going to have chances. And then when they have to come off, then you got like the likes of Lolley to come on, Mighton come on, and Keenan Davis come on. So we're in a very good place at the moment, and thankfully that's all down to Steve Cooper and what he's done this season for us.
The striker issues that Sheffield United have was evident. I think yesterday there was a shot at one point of a few of them sat on the bench, Billy Sharp, Ollie McBurney and Rian Brewster, who could only sit on the sidelines. They couldn't be out there playing, and it was Ndai and Gibbs White who were playing as strikers almost, especially Gibbs White, who's more of a central midfielder, playing higher up. And I think they did miss that forward presence of, say, a Sharp or a McBurney. But nevertheless, they did have Forest under pressure at times, but the Forest backline held firm, didn't they? Worrell, McKenna and Cook were all good, as we've kind of come to expect from them. They were just solid again.
Yeah, and it's like in the Championship, and even I do think when you watch a bit of Premier League football, them three together, apart from like obviously like the likes of Van Dijk and the guys at Man City, find me three better defenders in this country at the moment, and them three. So they're like really compensate everybody. They're like if one's gone towards the ball, somebody drops in, and they can play a bit of football as well. Like Cook's been at the highest level. He can very good with the ball at his feet. Walls has got better over time. McKenna, I think he went on the run in the first half, and he's a big lad, but he was dropping a shoulder, and he did get around them. I can't remember if it went for a corner or a goal kick, but he can play. We've seen that, how he brings the ball out, and like I says, find me three defenders like probably bottom half of the Premier League in the Championship, and I think I'll be waiting because they were superb yesterday, and they've been superb. The three of them have been superb since January.
After that spell of Sheffield United pressure, Forest made changes. The first change for Forest saw Joe Lolley replace Philip Zinkernagel, who I thought had a really good game up to that point. He was helping us hold on to the ball in the middle of the park and carry it forward, and he'd been involved in so much of our good play. But Joe Lolley came off the bench, and he was involved in the second goal. Tom, talk us through it.
Yeah, they tried to play from the back, and I think it was it Egan or Basham who had the ball, and you could see even I've watched it back now, and there's no real danger, and they just have that touch too many, and like Joe Lolley's like thinking, I'll close him down here, and then he's turned towards his own goal, and he's lost control of the football, and Joe Lolley's just like nipped in, and obviously can't bring him down because if it brings him down, it's a sending off. He's through on goal at this point. And I thought initially when I was in the ground yesterday, I thought it was a superb pass from Lolley, and I'm not like trying to bring him down in terms of he got lucky or anything like that, but it was actually a shot, and it was, to be honest, it was a weak shot at, and you'd expect Foderingham to actually save that. But as the ball's broken to Johnson, first time top corner, 2-0, and we've gone wild again, and there's bodies, limbs, etc. And it was just it's just brilliant with 3,000 Forest fans there, and what we've been through over the last 23 years. To actually experience that, and you're in the box seat then, aren't you? You think, not like getting too ahead of yourself, because we've suffered enough over the years to get too ahead of ourselves, but it's just a nice feeling that you've got like a real foothold in this playoff tie. So, like I said, the atmosphere yesterday was absolutely top draw.
Another example of Brennan's great finishing. First time, rifles that into the roof of the net, a superb finish. And on the Sky coverage, which I thought was great, they cut to a shot of his dad, David Johnson, in the stands, celebrating the goal, getting mobbed by people around him. And 19 years on after Jono Sr. scored in the Bramall Lane tie, he also scored in the home leg, of course, that year. But 19 years on after he scored at Bramall Lane, there's Brennan, his son, doing exactly the same to give Forest a real foothold in the tie, as you say, Tom. And that was a brilliant moment, wasn't it?
It was. And Brennan Johnson's been superb this season. I was, at the start of the season, I was a bit unsure about maybe if he could make the step up, because obviously he's had a bit of championship action under Sabri Lamouche, and I'm just I know there's like like sliding doors moment, isn't it? Where Chris Hughton didn't really fancy him, and then Cooper's come in and absolutely embraced his talents and what he can give to this team, and he's really put him on like a podium of like to express his talent and with the football and his desire, and yeah, he's been brilliant all season, Brennan Johnson, and the goals for a young lad in his first championship season. I think it was is he on 17 goals now?
Yeah,
something like that. And
yeah,
that's superb. It really is, because just like he does get knocked about a bit. He does get people who like coming in the back of him and this that, and he does win a lot of free kicks. But on top of that, because he's running at like full ball and he hasn't had the rub of the green from referees, and he doesn't get much protect. I'm not like having the victim card here, but he doesn't get much protection from referees. And I mean, Colin Frey said on Radio Nottingham a couple of weeks ago, we've had 11 Stonewall penalties turned down, and I would love to know how many of them involve Brennan Johnson. But yeah, when he's got the ball and he's got their back line running towards the goal, you just know something's going to happen. And the end result doesn't always happen in terms of it's a goal or sets a goal up, but just having that in your side at any level, pace and that ability with football, it's just gold dust.
And he's phenomenal to watch, isn't he? The way he glides across the pitch, and when he's turning and running at players, it's so exciting to watch how Johnson does it. He's so elegant, and how he glides across the pitch at such speed. And you just, however long he's at Forest, you've got to enjoy watching him because he is such an exciting player. Yes, and he almost makes it 3-0, doesn't he? This is after the goal. He's back in the box again. It's Jed Spence with the run and a cross from the right-hand side. Johnson almost makes it 3-0, but for a good bit of defending.
Yeah, and we would have deserved that. Like I said, with the chances we had, it's just unfortunate we're not going back to the City ground with more than a 2-1 lead. It should be. I think if we got the third or fourth goal, it's one of those, mate, you just don't know. But I don't think they would have scored. I think they would have been done. And like I said, we would have gone back to the City ground. Say if it was 4-0, and it was just what we deserved. We was in an attacking sense yesterday. We was dominant.
Keenan Davis replaced Sam Surridge with about 14 minutes left on the clock. And yeah, I think it was good to get him on the pitch and just get some minutes into him, because we might need him, especially on Tuesday when the game might become stretched, or we need a bit more of a physical presence up top. But he did okay, didn't he, Davies? He was involved.
Yeah, he did. And he's like, we know he's not going to be like absolutely match sharp because he hasn't played for the last month. But it was nice to see him on the pitch, get some minutes in him. And like Steve Cooper alluded to in the post-match, or was it pre-match, can't remember now, that he would, if the medical team says he can play, then and there was no like risk, then he would play him. So we know he's fit. He's just got to get sharp and get back up to speed from when he left the pitch on Good Friday against Luton.
So at this point, Forest are 2-0 ahead, and it looks like they're on their way to securing a 2-goal first leg advantage. But Sheffield United had one final response in them, and they halved the deficit with a goal which at first looked like it might have come from Jack Robinson, but it was credited to Sander Berge afterwards. Talk us through this one, Tom. And disappointing, I think, is the word for it. Yeah,
and how they do their set pieces, they like kind of surround the goalkeeper and pin him back. And I'm not making excuses, but in the game, Sam was quite dominant and he was quite commanding in his in our box. So when the ball come in, I think he's tried to come for it, and I think Colback alluded to it in his post-match that it was his man, and obviously he's pinned Samba back, so he couldn't get the ball, and then obviously the ball's come in, and Sander Berge's, Jack Robinson's there, and it'd be an interesting one because I've looked back on that, and I'm wondered if VAR was there, would it have been given? Because if you watch it again, Sander Berge he's headed it on to Robinson, and it comes. Robinson doesn't know much about it, granted, but it comes off his arm, and I'm like thinking, would that have if it was me? If it was our team, I would think it's harsh, but VAR's there to obviously make a fair decision. And would they have deemed that to be assisting a goal with his arm when it comes off Jack Robinson? Who knows? But yeah, just that 10 seconds of is a huge disappointment. But having said that, it could be a positive, because if you remember, I know it's a completely different era, but when we played Yeovil, we went into the City Ground 2-0 up. And it might just like regain Forest a bit of focus, not to be too complacent going into the game with 2-0. With them scoring, it like reminds Forest this game isn't done yet. So it might be a positive looking back on it. But I truly expect Forest to get the job done with the manager and how his philosophy is, and the mindset of the players and the mentality, etc. I fully expect Forest to get this job done on Tuesday in a packed City Ground, which is going to be a brilliant atmosphere.
Yeah, it promises to be quite the evening on Tuesday. Just going back to the end of the game, and Steve Cooper on the radio afterwards was quite positive about the goal and the events of those final few minutes. He was positive. He didn't sound upset, and he just put it down to the fact that this is playoff football and it can happen. I think some fans were quite disappointed. I got the impression, looking on some of the forums and social media, the fans were feeling a bit down after the conceding of that goal. But actually, you know what? Forest have won at Bramall Lane. The first time they've done it since 2004. The first time they've won a playoff match since 2007. Only their second playoff match victory of any kind. So there's plenty to be positive about. The performance was good. Should have been, could have been out of sight. They're not, but to borrow Cooper's phrase, that's playoff football. And as you've hinted at there, Tom, it sets it up brilliantly for Tuesday night. And at least Forest know that there is no room for complacency. That they've got to be back on it from the first whistle on Tuesday and going out to try and see this tie off and get the job done.
Yeah, it's like it's going to be a bit silly me saying this now, but the game yesterday is a slight bruise on a good apple, isn't it? At the end of the day, with them scoring, and Sheffield United have got to come out. They've got to come out and get the goal. And with us brilliant on the counter attack, we could pick them off. We can find the pockets of space, etc. But before the game yesterday, if you asked any Forest fan leaving Nottingham, go up to Sheffield, what do you want from the game? I'd say 99.9% of them don't lose the game, and probably majority were half expecting just come back with a draw, because a draw for them is bad because like home advantage and all of that. So we've won the game, and we was dominant. It's not like we've got that 2 fortunate goals and we've been on the wreck for the whole 90 minutes. We have played so well, and like it says, that goal what they've scored, it probably just gives us that bit of refocus, and we'll go again on Tuesday. But I can't remember who said it now, but not many teams would like Forest in the playoffs. And what we did Sheffield United yesterday in an attacking sense with Zinchenko, Spence, Surridge, they don't want to play us again in this quick turnaround. So yeah, let's go again on Tuesday and get the job done. And finally, this club gets to play at the new Wembley. So because it's 30 years since we played at Wembley of any description I can't remember if it was the League Cup game against Man United or the ZDS against Southampton. I can't remember which come. I think it was the ZDS. Because I think you played the League Cup game around about February and March. So I think it was a bit after playing the ZDS. But no, it would be nice to have 38,000 of us going to Wembley. We deserve that day because of what we've been through over the last 20 odd years.
It would be a long time coming, wouldn't it? But let's not get too carried away yet. We've been here before. We've taken a lead into a home second leg, and it's not gone to plan. I think this is a different generation of Forest team, a different generation of Forest fans, a different mindset around the team. So there's so much that's going for us into this second leg on Tuesday. The advantage is with Forest. They're a goal ahead. Sheffield United have got to come at us. They really have got to get that first goal to sow any seeds of doubt in Forest's minds. But that is going to leave them open, isn't it? Forest with Johnson, with Zinchenko, Spence, Surridge, if it's Surridge or Davis, it's going to open up the space, and you can just see Forest running riot against them if Sheffield United leave themselves too open, trying to chase back the deficit.
Yeah, definitely. And we just got to concentrate on our own game, concentrate what we're good at. Don't think about what they may or may not do. Concentrate on ourselves. Obviously prepare, which we've prepared so well under Cooper going into games. And like I said, just enjoy the game and don't get too. There's that saying, isn't the play the game, not the occasion kind of thing. And yeah, I've got full faith in this Forest side. We've at the City Ground, it's been pretty much a fortress, hasn't it, under Steve Cooper? So yeah, we'll go again on Tuesday, and hopefully we are victorious.
Thanks, Tom. And there we have it. Forest take a 1-goal lead into Tuesday night's second leg of this championship playoff semi-final. It's beautifully poised. It promises to be an incredible night under the lights at the City Ground on Tuesday. We will be back with you after the match with our report. And who knows, by that point, Forest could be on their way to Wembley. Thank you for listening, and until next time, goodbye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.